Well, hello and good evening, everybody, or should I say, boa noite. It's an Expats Portugal webinar here, the second part of our conversation with Filomena, Portuguese and language and culture. This is what Filomena specializes in. Filomena Pascoal, of course. She also is a translator and an organizer of some of the most brilliant trips around Portugal. So it's a real pleasure to be with you again tonight, Filomena. Tudo bem?
Obrigada, tudo bem, obrigada. Espero que esteja tudo bem com todos também.
So let us know in the chat, everybody. I could say that in Portuguese. I would, of course. I just did that for your benefit in English for the chat there, everybody. Right, Filomena, you're talking to us tonight about going out, right? It's the dining out, the cafe culture special. And we'll answer the big question, to tip or not to tip, but not just yet. I think we should leave that controversial issue towards the end of the webinar tonight. But let's get underway with so how to engage. And this is so important, isn't it? To make the effort when you're out and about. And I hope people have been watching the first webinar and tell us about the results of just saying hola, bon dia. It's so important. And I'm guessing it's important when you enter the cafe as well, to start with a hello.
Yes, of course, you can, of course, start with olá, boa tarde, or boa noite, depending if it's for lunch or for dinner. So you can say boa tarde, boa noite. And then I have a few information here that I can share with you. Okay.
Wonderful. While you're organizing that, we learned, didn't we, last time, that the bon dia is converted to a boa tarde once we've eaten, once we've had lunch. So
yes,
no?
bon dia, yes.
Okay.
Bon dia converts into boa tarde after lunch, and boa noite. Some people are saying boa noite, like boa noite from tomorrow. Well, at least here it's not dark yet, and so for me it's still boa tarde.
There you go. Another little guide there. That's wonderful. But at lunchtime, you can go in with a bon dia and hopefully leave with a boa tarde.
Yes, you can start with bon dia, and then when you go, you say boa tarde.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I can't wait to get into the restaurant with you now. We're dining in restaurants, as it says on the screen there. Probably a prato do dia today. So over to you.
Yes, so you can expect to have the restaurant open for lunch between 12:30 and 2 p.m. And the word lunch is almoço, right? So we also have a verb, almoçar. It means to have lunch in one word, almoçar. So our lunch is usually between 12, 12:30, and 2 p.m. Then for dinner, it's usually just from 7:30 to 9 p.m. These are the most popular hours. Of course, there are a few exceptions, but between 7:30 and 9 p.m. is the usual time for jantar. Jantar is both the noun and a verb, so you can say o jantar for the dinner, or jantar to have dinner, the same word. Okay. And these timetables, of course, depend also on the kind of restaurant. If you have those restaurants in the big cities that are almost always open, but in a traditional, let's say, a traditional kind of restaurant, these are the usual timetables. So you can't expect to go to a restaurant at 6 p.m., for example, and have dinner.
Yes, you British people. I don't know if it's the same in the United States, but a lot of British people learn that the hard way, don't they? When they get hungry at 5 o'clock in the evening, go to a restaurant at 6 and nothing's happening for another hour and a half.
Yes, that's right.
I just may I just add to that? I just back from the States. It seems to be dinner in the States seems to be around 5 p.m. in the evening. Everybody's sort of done by 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
Wow. Okay, so same message then. You're going to have a little siesta in the afternoon after the almuerzo and in readiness for your jantar at 7:30, I think there. Okay. All right, thank you, Filomena.
Well, then I have this sentence here that I think is it might be a useful sentence. If you want a table, for example, I took the example of a table for two. So you could, if you are there in the restaurant, you can say, queria uma mesa para duas pessoas, por favor. So I would like a table for 2 people, please. Queria uma mesa para duas pessoas, por favor. If you are brave enough to make a phone call, you can book, or you can go to the restaurant and book a table for, later that night or next day. And then if you want to book, you could say, queria reservar uma mesa para duas pessoas, por favor. Queria reservar uma mesa para duas pessoas, por favor.
Excellent.
So that is the way you can ask for a table. And of course, you can just start with uma mesa para duas pessoas. But if you want to be more polite, you could say, I would like queria.
Queria. Very good.
And we have questions
a teaching
here?
assistant. We do have some questions, and we have a teaching assistant as well this evening. Anna is here. Anna Vieira is
Yes,
in Cash
I've
Question.
seen.
Thank you very much, Anna, for being here tonight. First question in so far was, what is breakfast? Which is nicely connected to lunch, isn't it?
Yes.
Way.
Yes, breakfast. Well, usually I would say that Portuguese usually have breakfast between. It also depends if it's at home or not. But at home, I guess it's from 7 a.m. to 8, 8:30. In a cafe, it's also possible to have breakfast. Some cafes open very early. So some cafes open at about 7 or 7:30 for people who need to have breakfast before going to work. And others open by 8 o'clock or so. So it depends a little bit on the cafe. But yes, you can have breakfast in a cafe. It's usually either coffee or milk and a sandwich, or so usually no eggs or nothing like that as a traditional breakfast. So just a sandwich or a cake, because Portuguese love cake. So they start the day with some sweets, some cakes as well.
That's another adjustment, isn't it? Because I think the Brits and the UK, the Brits and the Americans like a bigger breakfast with all the things you mentioned, and some things that are just quite hard to understand, like grits, for example. I don't mean to be controversial, but the massive pile of stuff in the United States and in the UK for breakfast, much simpler here, and that's the pequeno almoço, isn't it? The little lunch, like the petit déjeuner in France, of course.
Yes, exactly like petit déjeuner. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's wonderful. So that's breakfast. Almoço, pequeno almoço and jantar sorted out there. Fantastic.
Yes. Then I thought that I might clarify some words about the menu. So, for example, ementa, or we also use the word menu, but that's the French menu. But ementa is the Portuguese word for the menu. And usually you have the several sections of the menu are entradas or sopas. So the starters and the soup sometimes also included. Well, usually if you go to a traditional restaurant, they usually have soups. Then you have the section of peixe or peixes for fish. And then you have carne or carnes for meat. And if you are in some restaurants now, you can have pratos vegetarianos, so vegetarian dishes. Although if you are in a small town like my town in Miranda do Corvo near Coimbra, you might find, maybe you find some vegetarian dishes, but it's not very usual. So you can ask for something. If you ask, do you have anything for vegetarians? They might get you an omelette or something like that. Some migas, for example, the mixture of bread and beans and cabbage. But specific vegetarian dishes, it's hard to find in a small town or in a village. But of course, in the city, it's very It's starting to be usual.
And similarly with vegan food as well, would that be?
And vegan food, yes, and also yes, but
even more difficult.
not in a small village or in a small town. It's a bit harder to find these kind of dishes. Then bebidas means drinks, and of course the Portuguese love sobremesas, the desserts. So entradas, sopas, peixe, carne, pratos vegetarianos, bebidas, sobremesas.
Excellent.
Okay.
No, I can't see the gallery view, but I hope everybody's repeating this after Filomena says it.
Yes, we are focusing on the pronunciation, right? How to say the words. Then I thought that I could maybe refer to some sentences that you can use in the restaurant. So, for example, you could start with queria or queríamos. I would like, or we would like. So, queria or queríamos. And for example, you can say a portion of. So from the menu, you choose something from the menu. You can say uma dose de, a portion of. Half a portion. Some restaurants have half portions because the portions sometimes are quite big. So you can say meia dose de. Or if you want two portions, for example, duas doses de. So I'm going to repeat. Queria ou queríamos uma dose de, meia dose de, duas doses de.
Right, excellent. And what if I want 12 portions of sweet?
That would be 12 doses de doce.
Of course it would. Thank you very much for that. Like you do.
For a bottle, you could say uma garrafa, a bottle. And for example, you can say uma garrafa de vinho tinto, red wine, uma garrafa de vinho branco, a bottle of white wine, uma garrafa de vinho verde, because we also have verde in Portugal, meaning green, but it's a very nice wine to drink, especially in the summer, because it should be chilled, and so it's quite refreshing to drink verde, especially in the summer. And Portuguese love vinho verde in the summer. It's from the north of Portugal, the vinho verde, from Minho, and so you can find it everywhere in the country. Then you can ask for a beer. So you could say uma cerveja. If you say uma cerveja, you are asking for a bottle of beer. So uma cerveja is usually a bottle of beer. You can choose what brand you want. You can say fino or uma imperial. In Lisbon, they say uma imperial, and here, for example, in Coimbra, we say fino. So I think at least the northern part of the country say fino. For the it's called fino because the glass is thin and tall. So it's the what do you call it? The beer taken from the tap, right?
The tap. That's right. Tap beer on tap rather than from a bottle.
And then, if you want a bigger one, you can ask for uma caneca. Uma caneca, which literally means a mug. Uma caneca is a mug, but it's a mug of beer in that case. Yeah. For water, you could say uma garrafa de água. Uma garrafa de água. The Portuguese say it quicker. We say uma garrafa d'água. Uma garrafa d'água. So when you say uma garrafa d'água, you don't distinguish the last E from de and the first A from água. So you join the two vowels and you say just uma garrafa d'água. Uma garrafa de água com gás, which means sparkling. Sem gás, still water, without gas. Fresca, it means cool. And natural, it doesn't mean natural, it means room temperature. So, uma garrafa de água com gás, sem gás, fresca, natural. These are the possible choices that you can have. You can also say uma garrafa grande, a big one, or uma garrafa pequena, a small one.
Could I add a couple of things on here from a foreigner perspective that I've struggled with or didn't understand at first? With the Kaneka, a lot of Brits like to have a big pint glass. And so they'll often order a Kaneka. People who like, a big glass of beer. And I often wonder why Portuguese people didn't go for the mug, the Kaneka, and went for a Fino Imperial instead. It's because it stays cold, doesn't it? If
That's
you have
right.
a small
Yes.
beer, it stays cold. If you buy a
Because
big one, it can warm up very quickly, especially in the summer, of course. So there's a good strategy around having a Fino or an Imperial.
That's right. That's right. The Portuguese hate warm beer. And so for a Portuguese, it's better to have 4 or 5 finos or imperiais rather than one caneca.
That's right.
Because if you ask for a fino, it is coming cool all the time, right? So you finish that one, you ask for another one, and it's cool beer again.
Right.
If you have a caneca and you take longer to drink it, then it starts to be warmer, and Portuguese really don't like warm beer.
And it's not about masculinity. It's about coolness of the beer, isn't it? Just because you drink a big beer doesn't mean you're a manly man over here. So
no.
Clarify that one. And with water, so you're doing very well at the counter, and you're asking for uma garrafa d'água com gás, faz favor. And you think, okay, I've done it. I've ordered a glass of fizzy water. But next comes
Fresco natural.
Fresco natural. It's like, 20 questions. So could you break that down for us? It's very important to the Portuguese people to order a specific brand sometimes of fizzy water.
Yes, sometimes, yes. You have some brands that people like, and they can ask you what brand you want. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And that would be because that's personal preference, and they've got different chemical compositions as well, haven't they? The different waters.
No, it's just a question of preferring this water or that water, but it's just like the beer. The the two most famous brands that are always the rivals.
Yeah, excellent. And as you said, fresco or natural. Natural could be a bit misleading because that you would that's
it's not natural, but it's room temperature.
Room temperature, very good. To know that and to avoid confusion. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yep, brilliant.
So now I thought of showing some of the vocabulary that you can find in the menu. So of course, for the starters, the most common starter is the pão e azeitonas, bread and olives, that usually all the restaurants have. So bread and olives. So pão e azeitonas. Then as a soup, we have some soups that are more common. Sopa de legumes, vegetable soup, sopa de legumes. We have our caldo verde that you can find everywhere in the festas in the summer, for example. There is always caldo verde, which is the cabbage soup. And if you are vegetarian, you have to be careful because it usually has chorizo in it. So the sausage, sometimes it's usually a thing in the soup, in caldo verde. Then we also have canja, which is the chicken soup that is also very traditional for the country. So at least these 3 soups, sopa de legumes, caldo verde, canja, are, in my opinion, the ones that you can find more often.
Wonderful.
Okay. Then for the fish, peixe, of course, bacalhau is the fish that people eat the most. Bacalhau, and of course, not to mention sardines, but sardines are not good all year round. But bacalhau, yes, because you have the dried and salted cod, so you can have cod anytime. It's always good. So I thought of choosing some dishes that maybe foreigners like better than the traditional ones. These are also traditional, but bacalhau à Brás, for example, is like the picture that you can see. It's a mixture of chips and cod and eggs. So no bones, which is a very, very important aspect for foreigners. So I think I recommend bacalhau à Brás if you don't like to find bones. This has no bones. Then with bones, with some bones, you can have, for example, robalo grelhado or dourada grelhada. So the sea bass, isn't it? And
Yes.
and the other one I forgot.
Gilt-headed bream is a bream.
Bream, that's right. Yeah. So they are very good when they are grilled, and they can be served with potatoes, with salad, usually tomato salad. So these can also be found regularly in restaurants. Then we have polvo ao lagareiro. So polvo ao lagareiro is the octopus. Lagareiro is a word that comes from lagar. Lagar is the olive presser. So we have a few dishes that are a lagareiro, so the olive presser way, because after being cooked, they are covered with olive oil and garlic, which was the way the farmers used to prepare the cod, for example, when they were waiting all night long at the olive presser to have the olives pressed. So usually there are long lines with people waiting, sometimes several hours for their olives to be pressed. And so they always have some bacalhau, some cod to grill, and then or to put in the oven, but usually it's grilled, and then you have lots of olive oil and garlic. So this is also a typical dish, polvo ao lagareiro. And of course our sardines, sardinhas assadas. This is how you can find them on the menu. The best month to eat sardines is the month of June. It's where we have our traditional festas de Santos Populares, so the people's saints, the Santo António, São João, São Pedro. And in every festa you always have sardines. They are grilled, although we say assadas. Assadas literally means roasted, but they are not roasted. They are grilled, just with some salt, and of course with bones. These have got bones.
Most definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Then for the meat, I decided to present what is also, in my opinion, common to find in several menus. You have the word bitoque, which means a beef steak. It's usually a beef steak with some chips, some rice, some salads, and an egg. And for the vocabulary, I also have here beef bem passado, médio ou mal passado, because the waiter or the waitress can ask you if you want a steak well done. Bem passado is well done, médio, medium, or mal passado, which means rare. By the way, the word beef has nothing to do with the word beef in English, because beef is a steak. It can be any steak. So you have chicken steak, beef de frango, turkey steak, beef de Peru, a pork steak, beef de porco, etc. So beef doesn't correspond to beef in English. Beef means a steak. Okay.
That's good to know. That's good. So any kind of steak, or
any steak, even tuna. You can say beef de atum. It's a tuna steak. So any steak is beef. Yes. And then the words bem passado for well done, médio for medium, and mal passado for rare.
Which literally means like badly done, doesn't it? Mal.
Yes, yes, badly passed.
Oh,
Then,
okay.
then I thought I could present one thing from the north, one thing from the center, and one thing a little bit more to the south. So, of course, in the north, we have francesinha. Francesinha, as you can see on the picture, it's a big sandwich with bread and lots of sausages and meat and egg and cheese and lots of things. So lots of calories. If you are hungry, it's good. It's good to eat francesinha. In the north, they say that the secret is on the sauce. So you have to know how to make a good sauce for the francesinha. It's usually spicy, a little bit spicy. And it's sometimes served with, or usually it's served with chips. So you can also have some chips to go with francesinha. Of course, you can't translate the word francesinha because francesinha means a little French. And so you are not going to ask for a little French.
Probably not.
But it's francesinha.
Like Jerry, I am so hungry right now. It was such a bad idea in some way.
So now, of course, if I'm from Coimbra and I'm from Miranda do Corvo in the Coimbra district, I had to speak about chanfana. And chanfana is the goat meat cooked in a clay pot, as you can see here. It can be, black or not, but it's a clay pot all the time. And this goat is cooked for long hours, so about at least 4 or 5 hours, sometimes more, depending on how old the goat is, because the chanfana should be with old goat. So that is a typical dish from the center of Portugal. You can eat it with, for example, boiled potatoes, boiled cabbage, or with chips. It's up to you, but it's usually with boiled potatoes and boiled cabbage. Then from Alentejo, I have chosen this dish, carne de porco à alentejana. So this is chopped pork with some pickles and some fried potatoes as well, and some shellfish, some some seafood. So that is carne de porco à alentejana. So in my opinion, these are dishes that you can find in the menu, and although they are typical from these areas, but you can find them a little bit everywhere depending on the restaurant. But you can find francesinha in the south, you can find carne porco alentejana in the north as well. So
She's
you
a
can
blessing,
find.
I can tell you. Can we take a couple of questions at that
Yes.
point?
Yeah.
And when we finish recording, of course, you can ask a few more questions because there are some about pronunciation. We'll come back to that probably when we finish recording tonight. Yes, Jerry, me too. I am so hungry right now with all these wonderful Portuguese classics here. Going back to the drinks for a moment, refresca is a name generally. Is it for cold drinks or refrigerante?
Refrigerante for soda, let's say. A soda, yeah, refrigerant.
All right, there you go, Tom. That's for you. Who sent us a vending machine full of such drinks, which would make it easy for you in Portugal. And there are such things, but come on, Tom, you want to practice your Portuguese. Janine is asking, what's the difference between Dorada and Bream? Thanks, Jerry, for that. The Dorada is the sea bass, gilt-headed. I think that's where the Dorada, the golden, literally.
Dorada means golden, yes.
Yeah, so it's a golden bream.
The literal translation means golden, yes.
And not a river bream. Anna's letting us know that polvo alagreiro is her favorite. Dos meus pratos favoritos. Thank you for that. And La Ronda, I love Portuguese meat. Which regions have the best meats? Anna's comment on that is pork from the Alentejo, beef from northern Portugal and the Açores. What would you add to that in terms of the best meats from Portugal? Beef specifically for La Ronda, I think.
Well, yes, beef is more on the islands of the Azores because there are lots of cows there. of course. And also in the north, yes. The north of Portugal is more into beef, and the south, central part and south is more for pork.
And yeah, I think the clue is in where the grass grows best is where you're going to find the best beef, right? So Trajes Monch, as mentioned by Anna as well. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Jennifer from Ashland, Oregon tonight. It's good to be in your company. Good to be in yours as well. Igualmente. Jennifer, we absolutely love the Shamfana we had in Coimbra. And where is the best place in Coimbra for Shamfana? Do people have to come on a tour with you to find that out, Filomena, in Coimbra?
Well, actually, we say that the best place is Miranda do Corvo.
And what I was reminded of was being on tour with you at Aubergão. Now, if you're lucky to go to that restaurant, which is near Lausanne, isn't it? So would you include that in the
Burgo.
I do beg your pardon. Portugal is the place. I'm sending people to the Algarve, aren't I? To Portugal.
Yes. But it's Burgo. In Lausanne, yes, in Lausanne, Burgo, they also serve very good chanfana, yes.
So good. Okay. Para mim, uma francesina, por favor. Yes, with the chips, chuck them on there. Thank you very much. Mirandes. Steak is Jerry's favorite. And Don Espeto serves a heavenly chamfana. Good tips. Thank you, everybody. And it's the happy cows that come from the Azores by the sound of it. And we will get around to tipping. Larry, don't worry. We will get around to tipping, the all-important. And sometimes
yes, okay.
Question, but not yet, because we're still looking at food. And I expect some desserts.
Yeah, may I go to the desserts now? So
yes.
the arroz doce, arroz doce, the rice pudding, as the British usually say, arroz doce, literally sweet rice, arroz doce. We lots of times we have doce da casa, the house sweet. It's usually of course, sometimes it varies a little bit according to the house, according to the restaurant, but it's usually a pudding and then some biscuits and some cream, chantilly or something like this picture here. But it's usually a mixture of pudding and biscuit and cream or condensed milk as well. Then there is also the word serradura that I also consider that it might be a bit challenging to understand what serradura is on the menu. Serradura meaning the sawdust, and so you are not eating sawdust. No. It's just because the biscuits are, just bits of biscuit, and so that is like the sawdust. And it's a mixture of condensed milk and cream and biscuits. So finally, also something that might be a bit puzzling if you translate it with the translator, baba de camelo, because how do you translate that, Carl?
Camel spit. So yeah. I'll take
yes.
Yeah, me and my wife will have a sawdust and a camel spit to finish.
Yes. So it might be a bit strange if you go to the translator and you say, what? Strange things they eat in Portugal, isn't it?
Yes.
So baba de camelo is with cooked condensed milk. Basically, it's cooked condensed milk, but it's also a very nice dessert. So then to finish our lunch or dinner, you could, if you want to say, you could say the food was great. You could say a comida estava ótima. So you can always say a comida estava ótima. Then to ask for the bill, you could just simply say a conta, por favor. A conta, por favor. Of course, you could also say queria a conta, por favor. I would like the bill, please. You can ask if you can pay with a card. So, posso pagar com cartão? Posso pagar com cartão? May I pay with the card? And then here we are. we got to the tipping. So if you want to tip, you can always say pode ficar com o troco. For example, if you pay and they are coming with a change, you can say pode ficar com o troco. You can keep the change.
Right.
And you can go and say até à próxima. See you next time. Até à próxima. About tipping, yes, I know that Some foreigners, they say we should tip. Some say, oh no, we shouldn't tip. Well, yes. Well, what can I say? The waiters and the waitresses and the staff, they love it when people tip, of course. I mean, everybody, I mean, I speak for myself. I also like when people tip me, right? I mean, I speak for myself. Of course, if you consider that the wages are not very high in Portugal, right? And so tipping can be a very nice way to help the waiters and waitresses' wages. And so if the service is a good service, why not? You can tip them and there is no problem about it. They will be happy. Some places they have like a piggy bank where you can put your tip, or you can just leave it on the the little plate they take or something for you to put the money. You can just leave it there. But in my opinion, it's I also tip when I go to a restaurant and I consider that it was a good service and I liked everything was fine, and I tip. Yes.
There you go, Larry. Now, I think the problem that people have is the rule is that there isn't a rule, because like if you come from the United States, sometimes it's like, well, it's going to be 10%, 20%, probably 20 now as a standard rule. Similarly, in the UK, it doesn't work like that, does it? You don't just get the bill and add a percentage.
No, we don't. No, we just, of course. And again, the average Portuguese can't tip a lot because unfortunately we don't earn a lot. So because we don't have a lot of money to spend on tipping, because if you think about eating out, it's usually cheap, isn't it? In Portugal, if you go and have some lunch with prato do dia, for example, the prato do dia, the day special, is usually cheap. And so it's accessible to several people. It's not just if you are a rich person that you can afford to go to a restaurant. No, almost everyone can afford to go. Even the workers that do, let's say blue collar works.
Manual workers having lunch.
And so they, as you can see, if you go to some restaurants at lunchtime, it's full of workers with with paint on them and things like that. So it's affordable to go to the majority of the restaurants. But of course, you can afford your lunch, but sometimes you can't afford to tip. It would be an extra expense. But when you can tip, you can tip according to, let's say, what for you is acceptable. So some people might give €2, some might give €5. It depends on what you want to do, but it's not to do with the percentage, nothing to do with how much you have spent and then the percentage,
which I think makes it a bit difficult for people who want to know exactly what to do. But it is a way of, I guess, learning culturally to use your discretion, to engage. And in many ways, it's not the amount, is it? It's the showing of your gratitude. And in many ways, if you've got a local cafe and you just round up to the, as long as it's not just 5 cents or something, but if you round up, keep the change. And maybe what would go down better is if you're making friends with people there, you take them a gift, or at Christmas time, you would show your appreciation in a different way rather than just the automatic, it's 10%, it's 20%. It's not like that here, is it?
Yes. And I've had people, for example, that because I do guided tours, as you know, and my tours are always private tours, so I don't have a big group, but I have some people, or sometimes one person or two people. And for example, I've been asked if they tip me, and then they ask, "Is this enough?" And I think, well,
no,
what can I say? I mean, it's not a question of being enough. If people want to tip, they should give what they consider it's appropriate to give, right? But I
So
mean,
no hard and fast answer, but a lovely insight into Portuguese culture nonetheless, with this matter of tipping. It's not transferable in the same way when you're coming from US or UK or other countries that have a different culture around that. Filomena, that's been wonderful. Do you have anything else to finish on this particular segment? I'm hoping for more in future webinars, but that's beautiful. That's, how to go into a cafe, a restaurant, how to make the reservations, some ideas on literally some serving suggestions or ordering suggestions. So that's been really helpful.
Yes, I tried to keep it short. I don't know if Anna has anything to add because she's from another part of the country, so she might have something to add.
Yes, and very gracious of you. Anna, do you have anything to add in conclusion?
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Anna.
Regarding tipping or everything?
No, I think we've dealt with tipping, unless you want to open that can of worms up again.
No, I want to add something about tipping, unfortunately. Sorry. I must say, unfortunately, in Lisbon, Porto, and Cascais, some fancier restaurants are doing the same as in the US. Okay, so we could have chosen anything to bring from there, but we select the tipping. So I have seen already suggested tips added automatically to the account, and about 10%, 12%, 15%. So that's not what usually we do in Portugal. Okay, usually we go out, we have a lunch or a dinner, and we tip accordingly to what we feel like. Sometimes it's €1 and it's okay. Other times it's €2. Of course, if it's 10 persons going out to dinner, you can give €5. That's it. But now they are changing a little bit, especially if you go to fancier places. You need to check the bill because they don't let you know, and it's automatically added. Okay.
Very interesting. Thank you for that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Miranda do Corvo is still a good place.
No, but I also well, thank God it hasn't arrived here. But I also go to lots of different restaurants in the I was in the north last Thursday, for example. And I can say maybe not as fancy as those in Cascais, probably, but yes, it's something that I have never seen yet, luckily.
Yeah, but all the rest, for instance, I go to several places and I don't tip anything. And it's okay. They don't spit on my food. I can return there because there was not that use. Or sometimes I go and I tip. The other day I go to the same place and I don't have extra, so I don't tip, and that's okay. But of course, it's nice if you like the meal, and especially if you like the service, you can just leave €1 or €2, and it's not an offensive offer. Okay, so you don't need to put €10 on the table or 20. But now, unfortunately, in fancy restaurants, we have been seeing that change.
Thank you, Anna, for that insight there. And you mentioned that your favorite was polvo alegreiro. Let's finish with your favorite, Filomena. So when people are taking you out to lunch, hint, hint, when they come over on one of your tours, what are you going to be asking for? What would be your favorite?
Well, I like bacalhau à Brás. I like it very much.
Yes. And the
but
rabo de bacalhau.
Rabo de bacalhau is also another one that I like. Yes.
Right, that's advanced level Portuguese culture.
I'm a good foodie, so I eat everything. I love fish and meat. I love francesinha, and I can eat a whole one. But I also love polvo alagareiro. It's really good. If it's well done, it's a perfect dish. Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you, both of you, especially you, of course, Filomena, for that wonderful presentation, and the second in a series, I suspect. So we'll leave the recording there for those people who'd rather ask their questions out of the live situation, which is a good reason to be here. Become an Expats Portugal member, and you can join us live on the night and chat with Filomena behind the scenes after we've concluded the recording, which we'll do now. So thank you very much for that. Muito obrigado, Filomena.